Photos face Pacquiao is zeroing in now. All about aggression. This could turn into a war of attrition right now. A couple of big
It started with a whisper, then a clip, a photo, and a headline. Before long, boxing Twitter was spinning with rumors. Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao training together. No confirmation, no full footage, just enough noise to light a fire under the sport. For fight fans, this wasn't just clickbait. It was a dream. Two of the most intelligent fighters of their respective eras, one still undefeated, the other a global icon. It didn't matter whether the session was real or exaggerated. What mattered was the idea of it and, more importantly, what Crawford said next. Because when a fighter like Bud Crawford opens his mouth, especially after being linked to a legend like Pacquiao, people listen. Every pause, every phrase, every clipped answer is picked apart like a puzzle. Was he impressed? Was he humbled? Was he challenged? After the training rumors hit the timeline, Crawford's first public words weren't a denial. They weren't even confirmation. But they said everything fans needed to hear. You see, in the world of boxing, most legends pass the torch in the ring. But sometimes it happens in a quiet gym under fluorescent lights with no crowd, no cameras, just sweat, timing, and mutual respect. That's the version people wanted to believe. That the greatest southpaw of our generation shared secrets with the sharpest switch hitter the sport has seen in years. That Terence Crawford didn't just train like a legend, he trained with one. And the truth is more layered than anyone expected. The idea of Terence Crawford training with Manny Pacquiao didn't need confirmation to go viral. All it took was a few frames of sparring footage in a dimly lit gym, a tweet with Pacquiao's name attached, and a few influencers in the boxing space asking, "Wait, is this real?" Within hours, YouTube thumbnails started popping up with red arrows and blurred screenshots. Even mainstream outlets dipped in. Be careful with the wording. Reportedly, allegedly, rumors swirl. But for fans, none of that mattered. The connection alone was enough to ignite something deeper. That's because Crawford and Pacquiao aren't just elite fighters. They're mythological figures in their own timelines. Pacquiao, the Filipino storm who carved through 8 weight divisions and left a trail of battered Hall of Famers in his wake. Crawford, the quiet tactician from Omaha who dismantled everyone in front of him and unified the welterweight division without ever raising his voice. They are the extremes of boxing personality. One, an explosive entertainer with global charisma. The other, a soft-spoken assassin with near-perfect technique. The idea of them training together, even briefly, felt like a convergence of galaxies. Fans weren't reaching blindly. There's history here. Years ago, Crawford was in the running to fight Pacquiao. In 2016, Top Rank flirted with the matchup. It didn't happen, but the seeds were planted. What would it look like if these two styles collided? And while the fight never materialized in the ring, the fantasy lived on in barbershop debates, message boards, and sports podcasts. So when whispers of a shared training space began floating around, the fandom latched on like it had been waiting for this moment all along. This wasn't just wishful thinking. It was nostalgia. It was speculation. But more than anything, it was reverence. Boxing fans don't just crave competition. They crave connection. And in that quiet rumor, the connection between two eras suddenly felt real. When the noise around Pacquiao and Crawford started to grow, Terence Crawford didn't rush to confirm or deny anything. He didn't drop a press release, film a vlog, or post a blurry selfie with Manny in the gym. He did what Crawford always does. He stayed quiet and calculated. And then in a post-training interview a few days later, he said something that didn't name-drop Pacquiao at all but sent fans right back into speculation mode. "I'm always learning," Crawford said. "No matter how far you get, there's always something else to pick up, something small that changes everything." He said it casually. No weight on the words. But if you followed boxing long enough, you know how rare it is for an undisputed champion to speak that humbly, especially coming off a dominant performance against Errol Spence. Crawford was on top of the world, already being considered the best pound-for-pound fighter alive. So, who was he learning from? What was this something else? Fans and analysts filled in the blank. Who could give Crawford something small that changes everything? Manny Pacquiao, the master of footwork, angles, and ring generalship. It just fit too well. And even if Crawford wasn't referring to Pacquiao, the silence around the rumor only added fuel to the fire. No denial, no correction, just that open-ended quote. Body language mattered, too. Crawford didn't speak like a man brushing off nonsense. He spoke like someone who'd experienced something worth holding close, like a lesson that wasn't meant to be shared yet. And in boxing, that kind of silence is louder than any confirmation. Whether he trained with Manny or not, Crawford used the moment to send a different kind of message. One that wasn't about clout or headlines, but about growth. And to the trained eye, that says more about Crawford's greatness than any viral video ever could. Same way. Sure.
Crawford, don't hate on him. Don't say nothing negative. Just give me my props.
The other question I wanted to ask, if you could comment.
In boxing, perception is power. Sometimes more than the punches, it's the narrative around a fighter that builds their mythos. And nothing fuels a narrative quite like the suggestion of a shared lineage. When fans started imagining Terence Crawford training with Manny Pacquiao, it didn't need to be real for it to resonate. Because just the idea of that collaboration, Crawford, the modern technician, learning from Pacquiao, the chaos generator, elevates both of their legacies in a way that only legends can. It's a pattern boxing has seen before. Canelo Alvarez rose in the wake of training camps spent alongside elite fighters like Shane Mosley and under the gaze of Eddie Reynoso. Floyd Mayweather's gym became a hotspot for UPAN coming-in talent not because he trained with them all, but because being around him carried a kind of weight. Even Mike Tyson's brief conversations with current heavyweights become content gold. In boxing, proximity to greatness suggests inheritance. So when Crawford is loosely linked to Pacquiao, even through rumor, it changes the atmosphere around him. He becomes not just the destroyer of Errol Spence, but a student of Pacquiao's intangible magic. A fighter who doesn't just win, but learns from the ones who made boxing unforgettable. For Pacquiao too, the association breathes new energy into his name. It reminds the world that he isn't just a retired icon. He's still part of the conversation, still seen as a source of knowledge, wisdom, and danger. His name alone raises the ceiling for anyone it's attached to. That's why the silence from both camps speaks volumes. No rush to confirm, no effort to deny. Just enough space for the narrative to live on its own. And that narrative that Crawford may have trained with Pacquiao is already doing what good boxing stories do, shaping perception, adding weight, and keeping both men firmly in the myth-making business. There's a certain edge to how he speaks, even in victory. Not loud, not flashy, but focused, meticulous. Watch any of his post-fight interviews, and you'll catch it. The way he reviews his performance like a surgeon reviewing footage of an operation. There's no satisfaction in domination, only refinement. That mindset, more than any quote or rumor, is what made the Pacquiao training buzz feel so plausible. Because if there's one thing Crawford has always done, it's chase the subtleties. He doesn't just want to hit harder or move faster. He wants to understand the angles, the missteps, the timing windows most fighters don't even notice. He studies, rewatches, breaks tape down to the frame. Sparring isn't just about repetition for him. It's about experimentation. So when he told reporters, "There's always something small that changes everything," fans knew it wasn't just a throwaway line. That's Crawford's DNA. He finds value in the smallest details. And if there's any fighter alive who could hand him a new layer of knowledge in just one round, it's Manny Pacquiao. Because to a mind like Crawford's, the tiniest insight from a legend isn't just inspiration, it's ammunition. Let's entertain it for a moment. Not because we need to fabricate truth, but because boxing is a sport of imagination. It lives off fantasy matchups, stylistic hypotheticals, and dream scenarios. So, if Terence Crawford really did step into the ring to train with Manny Pacquiao, what would that moment actually look like? Picture a quiet gym far from the press. Just two legends, one nearing the end of his path, the other peaking in his prime. No entourage, no distractions, just focus. Manny, now in his mid-40s, still light on his feet, still capable of firing off 6-punch combinations before you can blink. Crawford, younger, taller, switch hitting with clinical precision. Their first few exchanges would be all about rhythm. Manny darting in and out, showing those trademark angles, that bounce, that signature shift in weight. Crawford reading, downloading, adjusting. This wouldn't be a war. It would be a masterclass. Crawford's jab, trying to control distance. Manny breaking it with feints and half steps. One forces the other to adapt, to react, to refine. That's the power of training with someone who rewrote the rules of offense. Crawford doesn't need to copy Pacquiao, but one session, one round, one drill could shift how he reads a southpaw, how he anticipates movement, or how he sets his own traps. And imagine what Pacquiao could offer without throwing a single punch. Advice on energy conservation, subtle foot placements, how to land the left hand when the angle disappears. These are things you can't learn from tape. You learn them when a legend stands across from you and shows you just once what made him special. That kind of session isn't about technique alone. It's spiritual. For a fighter like Crawford who's already climbed the mountain, it's a reminder that there are still levels, still mysteries in the craft. And for Pacquiao, it's something different. A chance to pass the unspoken knowledge that made him feared. Even if it never happened, even if they never laced up gloves in the same ring, this imagined moment says something deeper. It reveals how much fans crave moments like these. Not because they confirm anything, but because they reveal everything we love about boxing. Style, legacy, respect. Two timelines crossing for just long enough to leave an imprint. In many ways, Terence Crawford stands at the exact point where Manny Pacquiao once stood. Not in age or fame, but in legacy tension. That critical stretch where every move becomes a message. Pacquiao during his prime faced a similar pressure. After dominating multiple weight classes, he wasn't just fighting opponents. He was fighting the